All right, welcome back everyone. Today we are going to help you work through soldering a tap on a copper pipe. Now this is a frustration for me. Almost every home I've been in, the builder is cheapened out and not put a simple valve on. And why does that matter? Because if I want to change the faucet, if I want to change the countertop, it requires me to shut the whole house off, all the water off in the house. And if you're doing one downstairs, you have to shut the water off and drain upstairs. Otherwise, the water pressure from upstairs constantly pushes down on the pipe, and when water drips through when you're soldering, it is not going to solder. So it is a real pain in the butt. So we're going to teach you how to put one of these things on so that you can change those faucets once and for all without any issues. So what we've mocked up here is your standard sort of lift pipe that you would find underneath your cabinet. Keep in mind when you're down underneath your cabinet and you've shut your water off and you've sort of got your pipe and it's solid to your tap, any soldering you do, any torches you need to make sure that you're not burning the drain pipes, you don't want to burn the back wall under the cabinet. So sometimes you bring in a little bit of extra wood, or if you've got a little piece of sheet metal, you can set that in to make sure that your flame doesn't end up burning anything that's really important. So in this case, we've got a cut pipe, obviously, because we're mocking this up, but we're going to assume this is connected, and we're going to show you how to cut this. So we brought with us two pipe cutters. So today we've got a little bit of a larger pipe cutter, which is good for this 1/2 inch copper, and we brought a small one so you can see the difference. Now these spin around and they have a cut blade on them, and as they spin around, basically you're going to torque them a little bit tighter every time it feels loose, but about every second turn around generally you can get the feel, because you can feel the tension as you're pushing it around, and once it gets a little loose, just give it a little extra tightening and you keep going. So essentially what happens is this little cut knife, this cut wheel, grooves into the copper until it makes its way through the copper pipe and the pipe disconnects. So one thing I will remind people, a pro tip, is you want to spin this backwards. So you've got the wheel, you don't want the wheel to be on the leading edge of the copper. You actually want to pull it backwards so that your roll wheels are your leading edge. So if we were to look at that, you don't want to push it towards the knife wheel, you want to pull the knife wheel backwards along. And the reason you do that is when you start to cut through the pipe and you get through the pipe, if you're pushing the wheel, it actually pushes the wheel in with each turn. It can get jammed as you get into the final cuts of the copper. But if you're pulling it, it's almost like you're pulling it away and it works more accurately or works more smoothly. Okay, so we're going to unthread this, line up our two wheels, get the area that we want to cut, and we're going to tighten this on. And that's it, it's on. Now, remember, before you do this, you gotta shut your water off in your house. You gotta drain. So, take the pressure off this pipe, you're gonna drain at the tap, okay? But at the tap will take the pressure off of that tap, but it won't take the water out of this pipe. So somewhere else below this in the house, you need to pull the water out so that this drains. Here's the key thing, pro tip, open this tap until it is done draining and leave it open. Then go downstairs and run another tap for 2 or 3 minutes. And what that'll do is it allows the air to go into this, and this will pull this water out into that lower floor tap. And it takes the water out of this pipe. If you don't do this, what you're going to have is you're going to pull the pressure off of this, but this pipe will still be full of water, and as you're going, the water is going to come out from that point up to the top of the tap, and you don't want to have that spill. If there's no way for you to do this, if you're in a condo and you've got the ability to shut the water off and there's no way to go downstairs, just make sure you've got some cloths, rags, some paper towels, because you are going to drain the water out of the portion that's above this cutting portion. So remember, we're going to spin it backwards. We're not going forward on this. We're going to spin it backwards. And you can see, even with a single turn, it's already showing a cut and a groove into this copper pipe. So we're going to keep running that around. Couple turns, tighten it. Couple turns, tighten it. You don't need to force it. It might take quite a few revolutions, but eventually it will cut through. In fact, you don't want to force it. We want this cut to be nice and clean because that's where we're going to install our valve. And the fun thing about this is you really don't have much sense for when it's going to cut through until it just lets go, as such. And there we go. We've got that cut. There's our extra piece. So now, we're going to install this on here. You can see it slides on nicely. But before we do this, we have to prep the areas. So part of preparation is to sand this. We want this to be nice and bright. So we're going to do that just quickly. Make sure you go all the way around. Get it clean. If you have a copper valve, you want to clean it as well. But in this case, we've got this nice stainless one. We'll scuff it a little bit just to be certain. Our next step is we're going to put some soldering paste on here. This is Flux. Now, if you're like me, you solder about once every 2 years. So I buy a little package of this. It's cheap. You can get it at your local hardware store. A small pack because it'll dry up on you. So I've had it in the past where I pulled it out, it's all dry and I have to buy a new one. So I'm not going to waste a big jar. So I just get a little package of it. You want to make sure you've got very thin layer of Flux all the way around. You can put a little bit on the valve as well, the inside, and set it on. Your next consideration though, where do I want this valve? So is it good there? Am I putting it here? Am I putting it here? Once you solder it, it's not going anywhere. So make sure you make that decision up. Now this is a quarter turn ball valve. And we chose a quarter turn ball valve because they really are the most common valve nowadays. They have a ball valve in them that just turns and seals instantly the flow of water. These are much better than your typical tap ones that crank in and sort of block the water flow. So if you've got the option, definitely go get the quarter turn ball valve. It will save you some dripping headaches years in the future. Okay, so we're ready to go. So when we solder this, what we're going to do is we're going to heat the valve. In this case, what we're doing is we're heating the part that we want the solder to pull into. And that flux is what is going to act as the agent to pull the solder into the joint. So all we're going to do is apply heat to the valve, the flange area of the valve, and then we're going to touch the solder to the copper and it will pull the solder up, okay? So we've got our solder. We'll pull that out a little bit so you've got a little bit of working area so you're not right next to the flame. You start up your torch. Again, reminder, I'm going to approach this from here, I'm approaching it from here, but the flame's going to go out quite a bit, okay? So consider where that flame's going to be. Generally, these things are right next to your drain pipe, you know, so you've got your black drain pipe coming down. If you're in an industrial setting, you might have the gray drain pipe coming down. You want to make sure that you're not melting that, obviously. You'll smell it, but if you smell it, it's probably too late. So make sure you've got some barriers between all your items under there. All right, so we're just going to heat this up. It takes a little longer to heat these stainless taps. They're a little thicker. And obviously it's steel, it's not copper. And if you're wondering whether you're close, just tap if you don't feel anything, if it's not melting, you're not hot enough. There we go, it's pulling up. And just like that, you've got her pulled in. Now, when you're doing a solder that's up like this, you want to be careful not to have too much drippage. This solder drip, and if it does drip, again, it's going to melt the bottom of your cupboard. So good idea to put something down on the bottom as well, just to make sure if you get a little bit of hot solder that pours off, it's not the end of the world, but it could cause damage to your cabinet. So make sure you clean that up. So once this cools down, the first thing I like to do, reapply the water pressure, but you're going to do that downstairs, often in the basement. So have somebody, if you've got a friend or a family member, have them come upstairs, make sure this valve is off, okay? You can see it if you look down in it, but when it's horizontal like this, it is in the off position, and reapply the water. Maybe grab a couple of cell phones and talk to each other if you're not in earshot. Just make sure that you don't have any concerns. Just a little bit of an extra safety precaution. Once we apply pressure to this, there's no leakage, you know you're in good shape. Now you can put your Flex line up to your tap or your Flex line up to your toilet, and you can forever easily exchange those appliances without having to resolder. Let's review once more. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to be notified of our latest videos.